Okay, welcome to day 113 of trying to become a SOC analyst. We're on the LetsDefend platform. We have another incident responder alert. So it's meant to be like a level 2 alert. It's SOC321, Windows Defender Evasion Attempt. So let's jump into that alert and see what we can figure out. So I've assigned the alert to myself here, and we've got level, incident responder, hostname Elenora, got an internal 172 IP. The process name is Rundll32 LOLBin and the command that triggered it was vbscript mshtml wscript.shell run calculate.exe. So we might need to have a look into that command to see what it does, but it looks like the mshtml is a LOLBin, so we'll have a look at that. Trigger reason, the combination of a Rundll32 and vbscript is a technique often used for malicious activity. This command can be intended to bypass defender detection and protection mechanisms, which can cause security systems to generate an alert. EDR antivirus action is saying not detected, and it was escalated from level 1. Minutes before the alert, I saw brute force attempts towards the system on IP 89. However, I could not determine whether these were successful or not. Therefore, I could not understand whether the relevant command was attacker or admin activity. Okay, so we've got some context. It looks like there was an attempted brute force, but the escalation didn't confirm whether or not it was successful, and this command was flagged, and they're unsure if it's tied to the brute force. So that's our goal, to investigate. So what have we got for artifacts? We've got the endpoint and the command. So let's load the endpoint. Okay, so it's a client. Windows 10. Okay, so a Windows client. And before we go through any of the browser history or anything, let's connect to the machine. Select all the beds. Okay, we'll let that load. While that's loading, I mentioned I wanted to investigate the mshtml. Let's go to the lolbas project. Okay, mshtml.dll. Attack technique, Rundll32 execute. So let's find out a bit more information about this attack method. So Microsoft HTML viewer, we've got the location, and do we have a proof of concept here? Invoking a HTML application by mshta.exe pops a security warning and a print dialog box. Rundll master.dll print HTML and then a file. So that's the sort of command that we're looking for. So it's taking advantage of a legitimate Windows binary to be able to load something. So, all right, we have an understanding. This is our command here. Launching calc.exe looks like more of a proof of concept to see whether or not calculator will launch, and if it does, then substitute in your payload. Okay, it's still connecting there, so let's go through the processes and the logs while we wait for that. We may as well take advantage. Let's move log management up here and filter in our log. Okay, so we have 3 pages of logs. It looks like we have operating system logs as well as the firewall. Our alerts, September 12. And looking at the port 3389, this is going to be the remote desktop. Oh, there's no details of the log, but we know, okay, we can see lots of remote desktop attempts. This is going to be the brute force that the level 1 consultant mentioned in the notes. So we'll need to figure out if any of those were successful. So we've got here, username is correct, but password is wrong. Okay, so we might need to look through the logs for error event ID 4624 for a successful logon, because it's not pulled into the logs here. But let's have a look at these logs. Okay, so this looks like we've got access to the event ID logs, and this is the command that sparked it. The process is spawned via cmd.exe as the parent, so it looks like it was entered. We might need to investigate more to see if the CMD was spawned by explorer.exe, and if so, we know it was user launched, not ran by like a VBA script from a phishing email. So it gives us an indication of how it was launched. Let's just go through the logs. The VM's going to take a while to load up, so we're back to seeing some brute force attempts again. Okay, so get net firewall profile has been ran. Okay, we've actually got some information on these logs now. So this is good. We could have a look through the remote desktop logs instead of looking through event viewer on the endpoint. We can just go through the logs here. So these are all failed. We're looking for 4624 for a successful logon. Okay, there we go. So we've got a successful remote desktop logon after looking at the timestamps, after it looks like a lot of failed attempts. It doesn't tell us what, oh yeah, username it does, username LetsDefend. So we do know that there was a successful logon. Then what do we have next? That's back to the firewall log. Okay, so we found our successful logon. Get service name WinDefend. So it looks like they're doing recon. Script block text. Let's just see, what does getting, so narrow it down a bit. Does it just tell if it's running? When I run the PowerShell, get service, like status. Okay, so it tells you if it's running. So yeah, it looks like recon. So back to our logs. So it looks like they're doing some recon, and then okay, they've then disabled the real-time scanning. So we could probably assume that they checked that it was running and it said it was, and so then they've tried to disable it. And then what do we see next? That's it for our logs. So we have no external connections to anything. Like they haven't tried to then follow up the calculator run with trying to get the second stage of a virus or, download a payload. So I think without even actually going onto the endpoint, it will have loaded up here. I think we're pretty confident to just start the playbook. I'll just open in a new tab in case we do need it. And before we do run through the playbook, let's just have a quick look at the processes, particularly just the PowerShell. So more recon, whoami, net user, okay, net share. So it does look like there's some recon going on. In fact, it might be easy to just go terminal history. Yeah, nice, all in the one window. So who am I all? Looking at their access rights, net user, looking at the TCP connections, looking at the shares, see what services are running, get the status of WinDefender, then try to disable WinDefender, get net firewall profile. I don't know what that does. Does that check the status of the firewall as well? Let's check that as well. Okay, so check displays the configuration. So yeah, pretty much same thing, recon. So back to our endpoint. It looks like, oh, page 2. Let's not jump the gun. Okay, and then we've got our command being run for the calculator, which looks like a proof of concept. And are they the same command? Slightly different. The only difference in the command, excuse me, the only difference in the command it looks like is this LOL45. Now I'm wondering if that's just trying to be obfuscation method. Let's jump onto the box before we open the playbook. I know I said I'd open the playbook, but let's jump on first. This does not look like there's anything malicious with this command. Let's launch it. I mean, and also, what do we care? It's on the VM. See if I'm able to launch as admin. Yep, okay. Now hopefully this copies through. Failed because system string does not contain a method named run. Go back to our log. Okay. What am I getting wrong here? Okay, I think I'm not replicating what their attacker did. Trying to go to power, I'm in PowerShell. Maybe the PowerShell strings run differently. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure, but I do know that we saw it run from CMD. So Let's try replicate it in CMD. Okay. Also, interestingly, it did get detected. Full history, no threats. Oh, slow to load. Okay, so this is what I triggered. But interestingly, September 12th, which is our alert time, it also did trigger. Status removed. Interesting though, because calc did spawn. All right, let's run the playbook. So we saw, it looks like the proof of concept worked. It did spawn calculator, meaning that they could add something malicious, but it also did get caught by the AV. But in the alert history, they also disabled the real-time scanning. Has the endpoint re-enabled it? Let's go through the playbook and see. So create case, start playbook, examine alert details, review activity and understand its context. I think we've done a good job of that. Review alert details. What have we got? Okay, firewall logs we looked at. We looked at all the logs. Sysmon was all included. We found the brute force attack and then the successful login. There were no requests to any external URLs. And we saw the PowerShell, not the PowerShell commands, but the LOLBin being ran. And we saw the real-time scanning getting disabled. And we saw a lot of recon commands. So that's a general overview. Next. Review alert details in the investigation channel 2. Behavioral analysis focuses on understanding typical defense evasion behaviors across systems and networks. By establishing a baseline of normal activity, analysts can identify deviations that may include defense evasion attempts. Okay, so we've already figured out the defense evasion by trying to check the status of the firewall, check the status of the defender, and disable real-time scanning. So keep going. Next. Identify potential defense evasion activity on the process or network. Monitor the logs for unauthorized network traffic. Monitor endpoint security for suspicious defense evasion attempts. So we've talked about that already. Determine the OS. Okay, so it's Windows. For Windows, the following points can be examined to detect discovery actions in Windows resources. Look for abnormal patterns such as processor spawning, multiple authentication attempts. Monitor for activity to bypass or disable. We found that, and we found that. Analyze the security event log for 4688 process creation. Okay, 4688. 4688. Oops, event viewer. 4688. Windows logs 4688 will be security. Wait for the events to load. Oh, it's tiny. Let's see if we can get this fitting a little bit better. We don't need that, so let's move that across. Be nice to see that. Okay, 4688, it's right there in front of us, so okay. Let's go to it was 7 a.m. Yeah, 7 a.m. Sorry, just double check the time. September 12th, 7 a.m. Okay, 7 a.m. Let's work our way. Details might be easy to read. Okay. It's the calc process being created. The calc process being created. Okay, there's the LOLBin that spawned it. I mean, we've already figured this out. What are we looking for other than this? Google update. Okay. The CMD, I was talking before about seeing whether it was spawned via like a file, a user clicking a Excel document and it's running a VBA that's in there that's then spawning CMD and running the commands, or if it's actually like hands on keyboard. And we're seeing that CMD is spawned from Explorer. So it looks like their attacker has logged in via remote desktop, spawned command prompt, and ran the commands manually. But I'm not sure what else. I mean, we've already saw the alert. We've already saw the calc process created because of the command. I'm not sure what else they want us to find. The other suggestion was to look at service installed 7045. Just go across here. It's a bit hard, we can't see the timestamp. The PowerShell was spawned there. That's in our window too. Botana. Okay, so that's the recon in PowerShell. So let's try filter the log to the playbook's suggestion. 7045. Might not be a security ID. 70, what was it? 70. 7045. New system. Oh no. Didn't create it in a new tab. Oh, thank God. Go back. So system. Filter log again. 7045. We're looking for 9 AM again. There is nothing under 9 AM. The next day is boot start sentinel system start. Sentinel. I'm not seeing a suspicious service. I'm going to continue on the playbook. I think we've already discovered the processes in the terminal history that we're looking at. And we've followed that it was hands on keyboard. We've looked at their event process creation, which we saw the LOLBin working by spawning exe, and we also saw the PowerShell commands being ran. Service installed, not seeing, did I filter it correctly? 7045, I did. I'm not seeing anything, so next. Determine the type of defense evasion techniques leveraging exploitation and external influence. Okay. I'm thinking debug evasion, deployed container. It's got to be exploitation for defense evasion. Endpoint injection. Let's defensive evasion. Let's double check. We have bear with me 1 second. Sorry about that, my phone rang. Okay. Defense evasion. What are our options? Really, the only other thing that could possibly fit would be process injection, but I don't think it really does fit. Let's compare to disable modify tools. Impairment. Adversaries may exploit vulnerabilities in security software infrastructure or defensive components to degrade, disable, or otherwise continue to impair their ability to prevent, detect, or respond to malicious activity. Cloud, modify registry. Modify registry. So I know I'm spending a lot of time on looking at the map here. I just want to get the definition. Process injection. I was on the stealth. Adversaries may inject code into processes in order to evade process-based defenses as well as possibly elevate privileges. Process injection is a method of executing arbitrary code in the address space of a separate live process. Running code in the context of another process may allow access to the process's memory, system, network resources, and possibly elevate privileges. Execution via process injection may also evade detection from security products since the execution is masked under a legitimate process. Okay, and if we go to our LOLBin, this was our tags for execute. Okay, what was our my other suggestion? Exploitation for defense evasion. Valid account, our default accounts. Or evasions matching a bit too much here. Okay, sorry. Impossible to navigate on the MITRE ATT&CK website. I didn't want to waste time, so I've paused it, found what I'm looking for. Exploitation for defense impairment. I think just the fact that it didn't have their impairment on the window was confusing me. So, adversaries may exploit vulnerabilities in security software, infrastructure, or defensive components to degrade, disable, or otherwise continue to impair the ability to prevent, detect, or respond to malicious activity. Adversaries may exploit a system or application vulnerability to directly interfere with defensive mechanisms. Exploitation occurs when an adversary takes advantage of a programming error in a software or service or operating system to execute adversary-controlled code, often with the goal of weakening or disabling protections. Successful exploitation may allow adversaries to terminate security processes, disable protections, bypass enforcement mechanics, or reduce the effectiveness of defensive controls. So I feel like both fit quite well, but it seems that it's focusing more on the defensive side. I do think we're going to go with exploitation for defense evasion. These mapping playbooks are the ones that always get me. That's why I've wasted a lot of time on this. So I apologize for that. But I take it seriously. During their investigation, use log management logs and endpoint security to hunt for attacker IOCs, evaluate whether any IOCs found are suspicious based on their behavior. Yes, we have some IOCs. Check the IOC's reputation. So the one that we have is the attacker's external IP. It says check abuse IP. Okay, so it's been flagged as malicious 129 times. Our alert was 2024, I believe. So yeah, at the time it was flagged as malicious, brute force, which is exactly what appears to have happened. We can also check it in VirusTotal and see if it's flagged as malicious, but yeah. Commonly when dealing with older alerts, VirusTotal only is really showing you the current reputation, not the history. So that's why AbuseIP is a bit better. As we can see back in the time frame of our alert, it was flagged as a brute force. So yes, suspicious, yes. Determine the scope on the endpoint security, log management, and email security systems. Examine the IOCs identified during the investigation. If these IOCs are also present on other devices, use those devices should be considered infected. So we need to check the overall logs for this IP. One, 2, 6, 1, 2, 6, 1, 2, 6. So it's on no other endpoints. So determine the scope. Is there more than one? No. Should the device be isolated? It doesn't look like anything malicious was ran. It seems like it was more of a proof of concept. However, we need to rotate the credentials of the LetsDefend user, obviously. So in that instance, how LetsDefend classes rotating credentials is you do isolate it. So yes. So go to the endpoint and contain it. Next, lessons learned, just generic, add artifacts. So we've got the attacker's IP. Maybe note that it was brute force. And do we have an option where we can enter? No, there's no other field. We could try and get the command that was ran, but we might just put that in our notes instead. So next, I'll pause the video and write some notes. Okay, so written up some notes. MITRE attack mapping, initial access brute force, initial access valid accounts, execution command and scripting interpreter PowerShell, execution command and scripting interpreter Windows command shell, defense evasion system binary proxy execution, run DLL, defense evasion obfuscated files or information, discovery system information, discovery system network connections, discovery permission groups, discovery. The what? Brute force from 89.187.177.73 confirmed malicious via AbuseIP database. Succeeded at 7:07 AM with login event 4624 on account LetsDefend. Attacker conducted hands-on keyboard recon via CMD spawned from explorer.exe, including whoami, netuser, netshare, and PowerShell queries for running services, defender status, and firewall profile. Attacker then ran two LOLBin proof of concept commands via Rundll32, abusing vbscript and mshtml traversals to spawn calculator.exe. Second variant used LOL45 as junk path obfuscation to bypass AV signature matching. First variant was caught by AV, no external IPs contacted, no additional payloads executed, contained to recon and proof of concept only. Verdict true positive, contained, machine contained. We've got the when, timestamp of 7:09 a.m. where, host Elenora at 172 internal IP, brute force source from the 89.ip, successful login at 7:07 a.m., malicious commands executed by CMD and PowerShell, spawned from explorer.exe. Who, external threat actor from 89.ip, gained access via brute force against the LetsDefend account, activity consistent with an attacker performing initial recon and testing defender evasion techniques manually. No payload deployment observed, suggesting early stage or capability testing. Why? Attacker gained foothold via brute force, immediately began enumerating users, network shares, and security tooling. Rundll32 LOLBin proof of concept suggests attacker was probing defender detection thresholds before deploying further payloads. LOL45 path obfuscation indicates awareness of known AV signatures for the standard mshtml traversal techniques. So that took a bit to write up, but I think we covered everything. So we'll go next and we'll finish the playbook. And let's see how we went. Still a bit iffy about the MITRE mapping. Oops, we're not doing that. We're closing the alert, my mistake. So true positive, paste our notes in again. And now we'll be able to look at our results. Day 104 streak. Yes, everything correct. Okay. I was just a little hesitant about, you saw I waffled on a fair bit about trying to determine the mapping for the defensive impairment, or what was the other option? Code injection. I felt they both fit, but it looks like we chose the right one. So back to the alert. True positive was correct. Should the device be isolated? Yes, was correct. Determine the scope. That was whether or not any other machines were infected. We said no. IOC reputation check. We said we did find an IOC and it was malicious. No, I apologize. IOC reputation check, we said it was malicious. That was correct. And IOC analysis was, did we have any IOCs? So we said yes to that. Determine the type of defense evasion techniques. And we went with exploitation for defensive impairment, which was correct, and determine the operating system, which was Windows. So all in all, it was a pretty good alert. It showed the full initial foothold through to the proof of concept, and the containment. So that's the incident responder alert, SOC321. And with that, I will see you on day 114 of trying to become a SOC analyst. Pretty much every day now will be incident responder alerts. So hopefully my confidence grows the more I do and the further I get through the learning path. But do bear with me at the moment. I am learning with hands-on. So thank you for watching. Bye.